might be able to tell I'm a Gears of War fan. And the Coalition had their Gears 5 tech test this past weekend, and I wanted to give my quick impressions on everything that I played. I played a ton of this over the weekend, probably more than I should have, considering none of the progress or anything transfers over, but as a huge fan, I wanted to give my impressions on where I think the series is headed in terms of multiplayer, but more interestingly, what I think this game is going to do different to bring in new fans to the series.
Just what I need!
The first thing I noticed right away was that the Coalition is aiming for 4K 60 for both multiplayer and single player. And man, this game is gorgeous on the Xbox One X. It is silky smooth, and every once in a while there is a frame rate hitch, but considering this is still just a tech test and there's going to be more levels of polish to come, it's super impressive on that front. But when you hop into the gameplay, there's basically two different modes or types of modes that are available for the tech test. One being a more traditional multiplayer in terms of a ranked play, while the other being the new arcade mode. I'm going to start off with the more ranked play. I mainly played King of the Hill because that actually is my favorite mode in all of Gears of War, because it's one of the most chaotic, and I think it actually spices up the gameplay quite a bit as opposed to some of the other modes, which a lot of people would call a lot of, camping, etc. And for better or for worse, this is a Gears game. There wasn't any major changes that really sort of changed how I played the game or anything like that. So if you're hoping that this was going to be like a new way to play Gears of War, the traditional multiplayer isn't really going to change your mind on that aspect. But the most important thing is going to be the smoothness of gameplay, which is 100% here. Especially with that 4K 60, I'm surprised just how smooth this game actually feels. But don't get me wrong, there are new things in this game. But a lot of the changes that you're going to see in the more traditional multiplayer modes are going to be under the hood, in terms of movement speed and the way you kind of get in and out of cover. Like, all that feels the same, but there are minor tweaks to everything. And one of the biggest things that I noticed, especially with King of the Hill, is that sometimes it doesn't tell you where the next hill is going to be until much closer to when it hits zero. So it used to be, you could sort of plan ahead as well as sort of, maybe coordinate people to go to the next ring before the previous one is even finished counting down. Now that seems to happen more as the overtime comes closer and closer. I couldn't really confirm that, but that's a big change. So there's going to be a lot of little stuff like that. But once again, if you were hoping to sort of come to Gears 5 and have new things to do in terms of a radical redesign for the Gears multiplayer, this isn't it. But if you are a fan of the traditional gameplay like the way I am, you're going to feel right at home. So this game is going to be more Gears in a better fashion. There's going to be more maps, new maps, and it's going to be great. The more interesting mode is actually the new arcade mode, and this mode is actually going to be kind of what I'm focusing on here, just because it's different enough for the series that it could actually be the way to get more people involved. Now I think it takes a few things too far, but let me hop into it here. So the arcade mode is basically an easier mode for people to hop into. It features certain things like a broader aim assist as well as easier headshot killing and things along those lines to sort of make the gameplay easier to hop into for people that maybe don't play competitive. And I mean, I think this is the 6th Gears of War game now, if you count Judgment. And so if you're someone that, hops online and gets absolutely destroyed because, we've been playing these games for years now, this is kind of the mode for you, but as well as for people that just aren't maybe that great at the game because you don't have time to play all the time. And so this is the mode I think that's perfect for newcomers as well as veterans because it's a great way to get your friends involved with it. And that's kind of where I think I'm going to be playing a lot of this game is like, I like to play a lot of Horde and I like to play a lot of competitive, but I usually have to play competitive by myself because my friends just aren't that great at it because they don't play it all the time. But with arcade mode, you can hop in and you can just have a good time. And a lot of times there'll be bots involved because it's an ever-rotating game to where if a player leaves, it just replaces them with a bot, whereas during a normal competitive game, if a player leaves, it can be detrimental to everything. But what's also interesting is that it's also kind of class-based, so each different character has a different set of traits as well as what weapons that they can purchase. Now, instead of there being power weapons on the field, each character basically has the opportunity to usually purchase a different weapon, whereas some of them also just kind of spawn a random weapon whenever you make a purchase. And so the currency is actually kills. So every kill you get 1 point, but also if you're not doing very well, the game kind of tosses you a couple points so that way you can try to get one of the power weapons. And that's a very cool mechanic because if you're not familiar with the weapons and you're not familiar with placement and, basically the innards of how the multiplayer works, you might not even ever get to use those weapons, which can be extremely frustrating. So this is a really cool mode to help newcomers, but as well as veterans, get used to maps as well as some of the new weapons and how they work. And I actually probably played this more than I played the regular multiplayer just because I enjoyed switching between the classes and using the different weapons. Arcade mode is definitely the most interesting thing about this tech test, but it also shows that not only are they trying to do new things with the series in terms of getting the player base up, they're also catering to the hardcore crowd. So this game is going to be very, very large, and you can tell that just by the amount of effort that they're putting into simply just the tech test. So it's only the first week. They're going to be doing another tech test next week, but I just really wanted to focus really quick on both of those and say that if you're a new player, I think there's going to be a lot here for you if you're coming to Gears 5, right? Because you've got it on Game Pass, or however, whenever you jump in, there's going to be a mode for you, whether it's going to be arcade mode, horde mode, campaign. But if you're also a returning player, like a veteran like myself, I think this is going to be possibly the best Gears game since 3. I think it's going to be way above 4, because 4 was a good game, but not a great game. So I'm super excited, but that's just what I wanted to say really quick on that. Let me know how you're enjoying the Gears 5 tech test in the comments below. Hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps us out, and we'll see you next time.